Let's talk about a record that feels like a snapshot of a very specific moment in time, but still somehow manages to feel emotionally relevant even years later. I'm talking about Don't Cut Your Fabric to This Year's Fashion by Action Action. Released in the year of our Lord 2004, this debut album emerged during the indie rock and post-punk revival surge of the early 2000s. Think Interpol, The Killers, The Bravery, but Action Action brought something a little different to the table, something theatrical, something synthy, and unapologetically dramatic. At first listen, you're hit with this sort of angular guitar riffs, vintage synth textures, and a rhythm section that marches like it's heading straight into this stylish black-clad apocalypse. And above it all, there's Mark's voice, emotive, almost literary in its delivery. It's less about, perfect pitch and more about telling stories drenched in self-awareness, irony, and existential dread. The album title itself, Don't Cut Your Fabric to This Year's Fashion, is a mission statement. It's about resisting conformity, even as a band clearly borrows from their influences. There's a push-pull throughout the whole album, fitting in versus standing out, style versus substance, and nostalgia versus now. So let's dig into some of these tracks. Instruction sets the tone. It's brief, atmospheric, and almost functions like an overture. Then This Year's Fashion comes in with it's a punchy beat and, bitter commentary on image and identity. There's a sense that the band knows the scene that they're part of, but they're kind of rolling their eyes at it, even if as they, contribute to it. And then you got 8th Grade Summer Romance is one of the album's emotional high points. It sounds like the Smiths got caught up in the sort of synth punk house party. Melodramatic? Sure. But there's honesty and the melodrama. It taps into the adolescence nostalgia, the ache of moment that felt huge at the time, even though there's, longing long ago. Other tracks like Photograph and Bleed kind of lean into the dark, almost cinematic tone. They're theatrical without being insecure, using new wave influences to create mood and character. And then there's Four Become One, which explodes with energy but carries that ever-present emotional weight. It's as if every dance beat is hiding something darker underneath. What's most interesting about this album is how it captures its insecurity of growing up in public, of wanting to belong, but never quite, being comfortable with the price of admission. Lyrically, it's full of social anxiety, performative coolness and introspection. Musically, it blends the sort of early 2000s rock revivalism with strong echoes of, 80s, post-punk and synth pop. But Action Action doesn't just copy, they collage. They comment on it. By the end of the record, with tracks like 120 Ways to Kill You and Illustrated Children's Book, you realize this isn't just a breakup album. It's a critique of fashion trends. It's an existential diary disguised as a dance punk album. So, why talk about this album now? Because Don't Cut Your Fabric to This Year's Fashion isn't just a time capsule, it's a warning, a reminder that chasing trends is fleeting, but, carving out a voice, however awkward or dramatic or, niche, is what sticks. This album now may not have a hit of mainstream like some of the peers, but it cultivated a dedicated following, and that's the point. It's imperfect, it's raw, it's theatrical, and it's very honest. And sometimes that's the most fashionable thing that you can be. Now, if you haven't listened to this album, it's a classic to me. That's why I'm doing this personal review. So check this album out if you haven't. Let me know what you think.